Hey, this is Jules. Welcome to Digital Activism, the podcast for changemakers in the digital age. Digital Activism is part of ACTA, where we build an organizing app for activists and grassroots focused on security and privacy. Visit actor.global to join our community and become part of our journey. See you there. Okay, so hey Joppe, welcome. Looking forward to talk to you today. It's all digital here. So where are you actually at the moment? Where are you speaking from to me?
Yeah, no, thank you for having me, Jules. So I'm speaking from Rotterdam in the Netherlands.
Okay, I see. So that's again a bit far away from me. So great to have you on the show. Really excited. Maybe right up at the beginning, can you share some recent highlight of digital activism that kind of like inspired you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most inspiring digital actions are actually actions for me that get people from behind their screens. Um, so I work for Milieudefensie. They're like Friends of the Earth Netherlands, and they had a big meetup this week with I think a few hundred people coming together to learn more about the new lawsuit that we're starting against a big bank in the Netherlands because they're still investing in fossil fuel companies. And I think that's really exciting if you can get people to sign up for an event and then actually having them show up as well, and feeling the energy in a room like that. That's what really gets me excited.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Is there actually what's like happening after that event? What's the next step with all the energy?
Yeah, so actually it's part of a bigger plan to build a large grassroots movement. I mean, I'm sure you've heard of like the 3.5% threshold, where if you have that many people of a society mobilized, a tipping point happens.
Yeah.
A change starts to happen. That's what we're working towards, and we're hoping to do that in the coming few years. Until hopefully before it's too late.
Words too late.
And these kind of events, they help bring energy into our movements. People who have previously only signed petitions, seeing actually, well, it's not just a number, on a screen, this 10,000 people signed the petition, but it's actually all of these people around me in this room that I can talk with and that I can make plans with. And that we're actually really strong together.
Yeah, I can picture it, like how you describe it and kind of like feel it. So besides that, you're also part of Activist Handbook, the so-called Wikipedia for activists. Why is there a Wikipedia needed for activists?
Yeah, so I mean, I think activism is not an easy thing to do. Right? Trying to change the world is not an easy thing to do. Activism it's often like this term that people think about is only people protesting out on the street, but really what I mean when I say activist is someone who just tries to make this world a better place, whether that is blocking roads or going into politics or trying to lobby political parties, right? And you're not learning this in school. You're learning how to function within society as it is, not how to change it. So for that, we need a handbook. And we have lots of resources out there already, lots of awesome resources that help people learn about change making. But I think what makes Activist Handbook different is the collaborative aspect. So it allows anyone, I mean, you can go to the website right now, like activisthandbook.org, click like the blue edit button, and you can start typing. And what we want to do is to answer basically every single question that activists have, and preferably also do it in every single language. And that's not a one-person job. That's a job that requires many, many activists from around the globe to collaborate. And I think that's what makes Activist Handbook a really awesome concept, and also hopefully something we can really turn into a success.
Okay, I'm thinking of maybe a bit of a provocative question. So, what are activists already or usually good at, and what do they feel like lack the most?
Yeah, I mean, I think people often have a strong drive to act, right? So they get together and they act. And it's kind of also in the name, activist,
Right.
But I think often it will be good to think first, to strategize, and to have a plan where you tie actions together in a way that it actually helps you build power and bring about the change that we want to see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, it also very much depends on which activists you're asking about. You also have activists who are only thinking about the best theoretical frameworks on how to change the world, but who are never actually going out there, talking with other people, and starting to organize. So, yeah, it depends on the activist. Everyone has something to learn, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, best thing combination. So you think and act, and then you rethink maybe, and you again.
It's a constant process of evaluation. It's not like you make a plan now, today, and then that's what you're going to do for the next 10 years. It's something that you have to reflect on after every action. Did we achieve our objectives? And do our objectives actually contribute towards our bigger goals? Yeah, activism is a lot about questioning yourself, but it's also about daring to take risks. You also don't have to be absolutely certain about the thing that you're going to do, because often the best way to find out whether the thing you might want to do works is trying and seeing if you fail or not. Yeah.
Can you share like a challenge or a risk you have faced in your activism work and how you have overcome?
Yeah, so I think one big challenge that we've had with Activist Handbook is getting enough people together for long enough to build a community. So Activist Handbook is this really online thing, and it's often difficult to keep people together when there's not that human connection. There's lots of organizations out there that are training activists out in the real world, and that's really valuable because you're building those human connections. But they also have a very limited reach because it's local, right? So the things that are learned, they are only shared with the people that are there. So that's the strength of Activist Handbook. But you see, there's a balance there. I think you asked for a problem that I've overcome. This is not the problem I've overcome. This is a problem we still have. But I think the potential solution lies in collaboration with all of these training organizations out there, right? So having people on the ground reflecting and learning, but then ensuring that they put that on paper and share it with the rest of the world, which in turn also benefits them. If lots of other people around the world are doing this, we can learn from each other. I think the solution might lay somewhere there.
Yeah. Yeah, right. I also thought I have this quote from your website. So
Mm.
don't just write guides, or as you just described it, do that collaboratively. Um, Activist Handbook develops digital tools to empower change makers. What is
Right.
that? What does that mean?
Well, basically it means we don't just write guides down on paper, then put it on the shelf and see what happens.
Mhm.
Because I mean, it's cool to write a very useful guide, but if no one reads it, then what's the point? So I think we're also quite ambitious in that aspect, in that we try to reach lots of activists. And this is also something we've done quite a bit of research into. How do we do search engine optimization, for example? And I really don't like marketing in the sense of trying to sell people products. But if you have a great thing that you want to share with someone, you can use these concepts to to achieve good things, I think. And it helps us know actually what things people are looking up on Google. And this tells a lot about the challenges that activists are facing um, around the globe. And
Yeah.
knowing what challenges are common also allows us to write better guides, because they're not based just on what I as an individual happen to be interested in, but the things that our readers are actually interested in.
Yeah. I really like that approach. I mean, you could call it user centered, but yeah, of course, you shouldn't write for yourself. You should write or put together stuff for the people out there. And how do you do it? Of course, you do some research on that. But then, like, what exactly are people looking or searching for on Activist Handbook, or as you said, like first on Google and maybe then later on Activist Handbook?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two categories that are quite popular. The first category are really basic questions, and they often start with what is. So, for example, like, what is activism, or what is grassroots organizing? But also, like, how do I organize a protest, or protest tactic ideas? These quite simple search queries, like, or activism definition. It makes sense that lots of people are looking up these questions because they're very basic. I mean, someone might also ask a more in-depth question, but it's more unique. So, if for example, you have many people asking lots of different complex questions, but there's overlap in the simple questions. So if you want to start writing guides, it's good to first cover those basics, because it allows you to reach a large audience. And then the more complex issues, I mean, they might have a smaller audience, but if you add them all up, then you still end up with quite a large audience. I think the second category of popular topics are kind of what I call interdisciplinary topics. So these are not specifically things that you would think of when you say activism. They're kind of useful questions for anyone, even if you're not an activist. So, for example, facilitating or burnout or web development. Like, you don't have to be an activist to look up how do I prevent a burnout, but knowing how to do that is very useful as an activist. And I think that actually also provides a very valuable insight, namely that no matter what you're doing right now in your life, if you're not an activist, you probably have experience with something, right? You're an expert on something, and that expertise is probably very valuable within activism. So, for example, for facilitating, you can be a teacher, a coach, or a consultant, and you might have very valuable insights as to how you bring a group of people together and and help people learn and come to decisions together. If you're a healthcare worker or a psychologist, you might have something to say about the well-being within an activist group. If you're a web developer or a UX designer or a marketeer, then you can build digital infrastructures that help start revolutions. So yeah, I think that's really nice.
Yeah. It's also what you just said. It's really inspiring to actually think of yourself. Like, how can I contribute? Maybe if I'm not an activist yet, or maybe I even don't want to become this like upfront activist, but what can I contribute? How can I contribute? What maybe makes me a bit special, and what can I share? Yeah, that's really interesting, and it all seems to be linked to, um, let's call it capacity building. So to really build like a solid or lasting foundation of activism or organizing, what are key components that shouldn't be overlooked? Like what do people need? What does a group need?
I mean, lots of things. And I think, yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, right, you need people with many different expertises. You need people who know how to get people together, how to get people enthusiastic, how to get people to collaborate. You also need someone who can take a step back and reflect and strategize and come up with good plans. Maybe someone who works in a very structured way. And you need someone who can tell good stories, who can bring a message in a compelling way. You need someone who has digital experience so that people can find you online. They can sign up, they can leave their contact details. And you might want to have some good digital system. I mean, this is my expertise. You might want to have a good system in place so that you can integrate people into your movement in a scalable way, and technology can help a lot with. So yeah, I mean, that might be a bit of an unsatisfactory answer, but in general, I think what people need is to be able to see how coming together gives them power, and then also how they can apply all of their different skills and expertises to work together and bring about change.
Mm-hmm. It all sounds, I'm already talking to like a really experienced person. When you're like just at the beginning of your journey, how do you actually know exactly that once you just kind of like offered like where to start?
Yeah, I mean, I think also you don't need to know, right? You can just start, and you will learn, and you might not achieve your goals, but the best way to get there is to start trying. I think being an activist or being a change maker is about daring to take risks. It's not about hope, right? It's not about being sure that your effort will result into a positive difference. It's about daring to do it anyway. And if you fail, getting up again and trying again. But also about celebrating the steps that you're making, right? And I think making these steps as small as possible is really important. So don't try to ask yourself, how do I solve the climate crisis? Because you're not gonna, right? You're not gonna be able to solve the climate crisis on your own, and probably also not with everyone in the world, because it's a huge problem, and we might be able to make the world a bit of a better place, but there will still be injustice, right? And it's a continuous fight. So try to make it really small. I'm going to organize this assembly tomorrow, and then what does that assembly contribute to, right? what's the next thing that I'm going to do? And how does organizing this assembly tomorrow help me get to the next thing? And then from that point, how do I take another step to be closer to my goals? So it's about having a vision of where you want to go, and then being very practical about the things that you need to do today, tomorrow, next week, in order to take small steps that get you in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're talking about strategy.
Yeah.
I can see those step by step and the vision at the end, but then just let's go for the first step and see from there and move on. But also regarding organizing, community building kind of stuff, at a certain point, it's not only about taking action and all the strategic stuff, but especially internally, there's something about sharing knowledge, decision-making processes, training the next people who join. Have you more like concrete maybe tips or methods to give away for us?
Yeah. When I say taking action, I don't mean a protest action, like going out on the streets. I mean, just doing something, right? So it can be a training, it can be an assembly to make a decision. It's just a thing that you do, and the best thing to start with is to get together with other people. Right? Don't try to do this on your own. Get together with just 3 or 2 people, and they will know other people as well, and try to come up with plans together. That's the first step. Now, if you already have a group of people, then it's time to start thinking about, okay, what do we actually want? Why are we together? There's lots of problems out there, but what are we going to focus on? And what are we going to do about that? And then try to start, right? Okay, we want to have our municipality declare a climate emergency, for example, right? You probably have nothing, right? You have 2 or 3 people. You have maybe some money that you can use to buy pizza to get together, right? But that's about it. You might have a social media account with a few followers, but you're basically starting from nothing. So you need to start thinking about what do we need to be able to make the change that we want to see, and then kind of looking back, what steps can we take to get there? And this can be anything, right? You might miss the knowledge, you might miss the money, you might miss the reach, and whatever it is, it might be all of those. Try to start building them, and it's not an easy job, but there's lots of people out there who want to make a difference, so have confidence in the ability of others to be able to help you, even if you think you can do better, or you don't want to burden other people with this. You can't do this alone, and that's a really important lesson.
True. There's so much to be considered or researched or experimented with. So if I would be just at the beginning right now, I would be really overwhelmed. But what you said, activism can be really challenging, especially like organizing, really getting to concrete steps. Of course, there's a lot of work to be done. Is there maybe a special kind of community or support system that you find valuable, like something concrete?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is it has to be people that you can meet, right? or that are close to you. So I can't recommend. I mean, you can be anywhere when you're listening to this podcast, but there's training organizations on around the globe that provide help to activists who are just starting out. There's a list on Activist Handbook pages called training. Yeah, but I think that's a really good start, right? But it might also just be one of your friends. You don't need to. I think it's also really important that activism isn't a profession that you have to go to school for, and only after you have your degree you can start. You can start making a positive difference right now by starting to try, and you might not actually see the direct impact that something is making, but it's a bit like you start to boil water, right? It might get hotter and hotter and you don't see anything happen, but at some point, your pasta overflows. And I think that's very much like activism. Your actions are actually contributing. If you're bringing people together, like, that's a win. If your issue is being heard, so that's a win. And you might well have reached your goal, but you're contributing to getting there. And if we have lots of people who are brave and try to do that, even if they don't feel like it's making much of a difference, we are making much of a difference. Because if you look back in history, the world was a different place, right? We've come here, we've got women's voting rights, we've got workers' rights, because people were brave and tried to make a difference even when they thought it was impossible. And even if the actions they did felt like wasn't amounting to much. And I think that's what we need now as well.
Yeah, right. I like that. I think you can have an impact on the person right next door. That is it's a journey to reach, of course, bigger change. Yeah. Okay. So, but there was always this thing of some stuff maybe is better local or in person, but then there's always also the new, not so new anymore, possibilities of digitization, of doing some stuff digital or remotely. So reflecting on your own journey, how have digital platforms or emerging technologies, however you want to call it, transformed the way you approach activism?
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, I said it in the beginning, the most impactful way technology can help is if it brings people closer together in the real life. When I say try to meet people who are nearby or in your local area, that is because you need people around you to support you, to who you can go to and just have a nice cup of tea or pizza or whatever, and be in solidarity with each other. But of course, you can learn lots from other activists across borders. And Activist Handbook actually was started through such an international project. We started in Serbia. So I'm from the Netherlands, but I traveled to Serbia. This was a summer camp organized by Federation of Young European Greens, and there were activists from around Europe. And we came up with this idea of, well, let's build a Wikipedia for activists. And that's how that started. So I see technology as a tool that facilitates people getting closer together. Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about Activist Handbook, of course, it's not really bringing people together in that sense. It's more about reading a guide and that's it. But yeah, so I think actually that's also something that I would like to improve on. If you're reading a guide and you think, okay, I would like to get to learn some more about this, what experienced activists are near me and can I meet up with, so that we can work on the issues that are happening in my specific context together. I think that would really make it more powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or actually, is there still also part or of the community of the activist handbooks creation or of the original people you just mentioned? You met in Siberia probably some years ago. Is there still like a meetup from time to time, really meeting each other, coming together, like in person? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, right now it's mostly on people just going onto the website and editing. But of course, there's people that I still know and speak to regularly, and not specifically on about Activist Handbook. I mean, there's lots of other projects that they work on that I work on, but yeah, I think the strength of Activist Handbook is the combination of technology and this idea of a handbook, right? So we didn't just pick a piece of software, installed it, and put it online, right? We specifically built the website that we have, and I'm actually right now working on a new version of our website that has automatic translations and a better search engine. And I think this combination, that's really our strength with Activist Handbook. And there's other organizations, training organizations across the globe. So the ones I mentioned are in a list on Activist Handbook, but I mean I can actually also name a few as a teaser, right? So the Mobilization Lab, Training for Change, social movement technologies, the Good Lobby, Climate 2025. Well, there's a lot of them, yes, but yeah. And so I think it's really important also as an organization, as a movement, to look out into the ecology of organizations and movements that are out there, and just try and find a place where you are really strong and where you can contribute. And I think for Activist Handbook, that is this combination of digital expertise with knowledge sharing.
yes. If you would get like $1 million
Yeah. Yeah.
more for activist handbook, what would you do with it?
I mean, that's a good question. I think I would start by hiring some of the most experienced activists I've come across in my journey of being an activist, and just getting them together in the same room and asking, hey, we have lots of money. What shall we do with this? How can we make an impact? I think that's a good start. Of course, I have my own ideas on how to spend that money, but like I said before,
Yeah.
the most effective way to organize is by doing it together, because you come up with better ideas together. Yeah, and that's a lot of responsibility, spending that money. Good.
It is. Well, there's a lot of money for that. But again, then I have to remember my question I already asked. Like, how would you organize the decision making on like the spending of the $1 million?
Yeah, because it's on my bank account, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Let's imagine it on your bank account.
Okay. Yeah. I mean that's actually, I think, a challenge that many activist organizations face, right? Because they're getting funding from an organization and that organization that then also has some power, over how that money gets spent. And I imagine that will be the same if I were having the money and I would ask other people. But in the end, it's my money. I think decision making is really about facilitating a safe atmosphere for people to speak up, for people to be brave and to admit their privileges, but also when they don't feel safe, right? And that's the first step. I think it's about dividing roles, making sure that people are making decisions about things that they know lots about, making sure that the groups with which you make decisions are not too big, right? So you can make unanimous decisions with a group of, let's say, up to 8 people. But if you go beyond that, you're always going to have someone who says no, right? And so what you need to decide is which decisions do we need to take as a whole group, and which decisions do we want to delegate to a smaller group. And I think if we're talking about a grassroots movement, right, it's really important to set a clear scope of your organization right from the beginning, so people know what to expect when they enter. Right. So, for example, Extinction Rebellion has a very clear scope in that they say, okay, well, petitions don't work. So that's why we're doing civil disobedience, but we're doing it non-violently, right? So it's right between, we are, kind of radical because we're doing civil disobedience, but also we're not going to do violence. And I think that's really important, because people who say, well, I actually do not want to get arrested, that's not their organization, right? I think that's important.
Kind of interesting that you actually are this radical grassroots or a group of people, but you still telling me to give yourself some rules. Can you say so? But to really set expectations for yourself and for new people. I mean, there's really this special thing. What if someone says no, I don't want to, I can't. Okay, Joppe, you had this great thing with what you want to do with the money, but no, no, I can't live with that. How to deal?
Yeah. So I mean, I think setting a clear context, clear boundaries up front, right? And people who become volunteers, especially if they become volunteers, you want to have the right expectations, right? So they go in and they accept the terms, right? They say, okay, this is what I sign up for. And when you start doing something that's not in agreement with the thing that you signed up for, of course you can have objections. You should have objections. And I think, of course, an organization can also evolve over time, right? It's important to be flexible to some degree. So if everyone, or a large group of people, says, well, actually, maybe we should reflect on the consensus that we had before, that's a good thing, right? You should be able to change as an organization. For example, if you find out that actually there's a small group within your movement that feels marginalized, or feels like you're not talking about the right things. But in the end, you need to have consensus on the consensus, right? Yeah, the ground rules, there needs to be consensus on, and everything else, you can disagree about. You can come to agreements along the way.
No. What are apps and tools you use for communication, organizing in your activist life? What do you have on your smartphone?
Signal for secure communication, Slack for communication in large groups.
Okay.
I think those are two important ones.
Yeah. Yeah, I see. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of like standard. We still need an alternative to Slack because it's not yet what you said with Signal. Said
Yeah. Actually, there's also Rocket Chat.
right. That's true. But are you really using it, or is like Slack if you can?
No, I'm not using it. But we have it at our office, but no one's using it. We're still using email. We're a bit old-fashioned. Yeah, but there's tools out there that do what Slack is doing, but in a more secure way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Okay, so how do you keep up with politics and society? What do you watch or read online?
I mean, lots of sources. I mean, there's some cool YouTubers that are climate scientists that do research. I like to listen to them to hear how depressing it's out there.
Can you name some?
I mean, I have to look it up.
I feel like it out.
Give me a second.
Of course, always like happy for recommendations.
Well, they haven't actually published anything recently.
Oh, that's too bad. So then, how do you keep?
Yeah.
Don't publish anymore. How do you keep up?
Yeah, I mean, just regular news channels, right? Like The Guardian or something. There's Dutch news channels, Volkskrant now, but they're probably not that interesting to the average listener of this podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I see. And so last question: would you maybe like to suggest a guest for this podcast? Someone we can invite to our show regarding like digital activism.
Digital activism. Well, sure. Actually, maybe you can talk with the people from Activist.org. Like they're building something similar actually to Actor. Or Actor, if it's pronounced right.
Actor, yeah.
That's it. I don't know. It might be interesting to invite someone from EFF, like the privacy organization.
Mm-hmm. Stuff.
Yeah,
That was really cool.
definitely. It was lovely talking to you, Jill.
Thanks for listening to Digital Activism, the podcast for change makers, which is produced by Actor, the app for next level safe and secure organizing.